Oh, yes. Why did I put this here? Oh, it's the Agricultural Experimentation Station. Oh, look at that. It research consider. The United States has dozens of stations, including stations in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Yes. These are state schools called land grant universities. Yes. Could you give me every experiment station of all agricultural experiment stations that were land grant universities where the United States had given some land? Now, I might just be suing for some additional assets right now. I know the United States stations are state institutions, but the federal and state governments cooperate in funding the research done at those stations. Yes. Additional income comes from competitive grants, contracts, and the sale of farm products. Yes. Now, the first one was a Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut in 1875. The provisions of the Act and later legislation provided increased funds were combined with the Hatch Act of 1955. Yes. And then the federal government takes part in the experiment station of the National Institute of Food, Agriculture in the United States Department of Agriculture. Now, since these are land grant stations, yes, yes. And the United States paid for them. They're actually an asset of the United States of America. So give me the last 60 years of employees. Pooch. Every grant, every state fund used, and all federal funds used. Yes. And then give me every employee of the National Institute of Food and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, I could use those land grant universities for what I want to do. Yes. But since they're an actual asset, yes, of the United States, yes, something that looks like they gave them some additional land when they got going, yes, I want to know every experiment station in every state of the United States, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, anywhere else in the world, and every employee for the last 60 years. And then I want to know the actual ownership of all land grant universities for those. Oh my gosh, look at this agriculture. You thought that you owned those land grant universities? I think they're an actual asset to the United States of America. I mean, exactly what was the agreement at the time that you received them? That you would or would not enforce the actual Constitution of this great nation. What's the express authority of every land grant university of the United States of America? Exactly. What is the implied? Well, you've been receiving a lot of money, haven't you? Pooch, look at this. My golly. These agricultural genetics, yes. And they began with the work of an Austrian monk named Gregoire Mendel. He was a monk, lived in a monastery, sitting there playing with different types of plants. Ask, is there the orthodoxy? We need a few more monks, don't we? Do we really need any more nuns? No. I was looking. Could you get me the genetics? Yes. Of all of those that have been refining the selective breeding? Yes. Many livestock produced through the selective breeding have traits and causes to grow and fatten quickly? Yes. Now, a little earlier, I was telling you about your pets, the dogs and cats, and the tags necessary. Yes. And then all those thoroughbreds and purebred animals. Yes. Get me the sperm and eggs of every one of them that are genetically mutated in any way. And then I had seen some sort of story about somebody that had wanted to kind of isolate that super fast gene of the thoroughbred horses. Yes. Well, I'm going to want to know all of the isolated genetics of anything and everything that's being manufactured. Now, I know you have a large amount of cow sperm. Yes, one of these purebreds. And I thought that I was going to get a hold of a lot of livestock. Yes, put them out there in the field. One of these Great Plains types of things. Yes, just let them do what they do naturally. Somebody have been doing too much selective breeding. So just get me all the sperm and all the eggs of all the known animals. And now, well, I'm in feed, food, and fertilizer. I found out about artificial fertilizers when I was reading this. Yes, something I really don't like. I mean, the whole thought of using artificial fertilizers. We have a shortage of human nutrients that can't be used in some sort of crop. You know, when I was looking at a map of this, yes. See this? This is Africa. Yeah. And I'm suing all 53 nations in this continent right here. But see this right here? I was going to put some fresh water right there. What if I took all the human nutrient of Africa, put it in the desert and watered it? I know. You've got a lot of shit in Africa, do you? Yes. And you're legally liable for my damages because of your refusal to enforce treaty obligations. And I decide that I do not like mostly non-agricultural. Yes. See, the United States has very few non-agricultural places. Yes. And if you look at where they're located, yes, I think they're deserts. Now, I do. I was looking at. Now, I get the human nutrient of Africa. It's kind of a payment scheme. Yes. You decide, right, that you're going to pay to truck it, yes, to these different places that are non-agricultural, that happen to have quite a bit of desert land. I put it out there, I water it, drought conditions. After getting rid of a large amount of human nutrient in Africa, I decide to plant some seeds. Do we need artificial fertilizers, or do you think there's some way that we might be able to do this? Because, there's no way you can grow grass and actual human shit, is there? Now, what would happen to a cow that eats it?